So this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about 1 hour D&D, and I'm going to tell you the second half of Session 1 of Laser Sights and Last Rites. All right, so the modern contemporary campaign I'm running. So Sean Hartfield, who is a contract killer who completed 15 black hat kills and now has done 17 white hat kills in a row, leaves his interview with Sarah, the daughter of the Grey Wolf, and he talks to his handler, Alabaster Dove. So Alabaster Dove is like, "Hey, good to talk to you. I know you're in Atlanta, and here are 3 options you have in Atlanta, right?" And so it's interesting. So for every single one of these sessions, what I need to do is I actually need to break it down. And I need to come up with 3 people. And those 3 people need to have a name, and they have to have what they did. Why are they on a contract killer list? Why is there a bounty? Why is there a price on their head, right? And and that's pretty usually, that's the fun part, like figuring out how somebody would get onto a contract killer list, right? Why somebody would be paying for someone to die, right? And then in addition, and then I have to bring up the price, right? And the price, is it, is the price, hey, you get 500K, but, and that's the deal, and all your expenses are on you, or if it's like 250K and all expenses are paid, right? So whatever new weapons you need, whatever travel expenses you need, whatever's needed to complete the job, right? So it might be a flat rate, or it might be, a rate, and then you have to or it might be a rate and all your expenses, right? And then it's up to the user to say, well, I want this equipment and that equipment, and they might go hog wild and get whatever they need and whatever they might need, because they're not paying for it, right? Because the expenses are included in the contract, right? And then last, how is the job to be done? Is it to be done messy and loud to send a message for anybody else who does this thing that the person did? Or does it have to be done quiet and clean, right? And then also, is the quiet and clean part like you get the job done and then we'll send in a cleaning crew? Or is it quiet and clean and you have to make sure it's clean? Or is it anything goes? We don't care if it's messy or loud. We don't care if it's quiet or clean, as long as it's done, right? So there's 4 aspects. So there's the name. What did the person do? What is the price being offered? And then what is the method that the person who's paying the contract killer, what method do they want it done through, right? So there's a lot of fun in the prep for the game to think up these people, and each one I need 3 of them because I want to put 3 choices in front of the player who's playing the contract killer, right? So I won't iterate on what the choices were, but I will tell you what the person chose, right? So they were like, okay, so the person chose, picked the job. It was 500K, and the job was for a Boston drug dealer who had been dealing drugs for a while, but then got hooked on their own supply, and then started taking very pure product and then cutting it. Right, and they ended up cutting it in the wrong way and made a really bad batch, and it killed like 12 people. But the problem is, it killed one MIT student who had a parent who was incredibly rich, right? And so that was the person who was contracting for the job. They were like, I want this dude dead, right? And the method does not matter, and it's 500,000 plus expenses, right? And so Sean Hartfield took this as a white hat job, right? Because he felt like this guy is responsible. We know for a fact this guy is responsible for 12 deaths. One of those deaths, there's somebody who's willing to pay a lot to have this person put in the dirt. So his job was to take care of this Boston drug dealer who was now in Atlanta and still bouncing around and left Boston because it was too hot for him, and so basically at this point, Sean Hartfield says, "Great, thank you, Alabaster. I'm taking the job." And then he makes this order, which I thought was pretty cool. So he ordered a 9mm silenced, and he ordered a sniper rifle. Right now, all these are clean, they're ready to go, and they're going to be dumped at the end of the job. Right? And actually, they're not even going to be dumped. They'll be picked up and then cleaned, right, so that they can be used again, right? And also, all Sean Hartfield has to do is do the job, get the job done, and because expenses are paid, he can literally leave the body wherever it's at, and then Alabaster Dove will send a cleaning crew to take care of the body, right? So this is pretty in and out for him. So Sean Hartfield's like, great, no problem. So at this point, he is given a location of where the Boston drug dealer is staying. It's just at a hotel. He goes, he scouts it out. It only takes a couple hours. He also finds out that the Boston drug dealer has been going to a certain place to buy the same soup for the last few days. It's the only time he comes out of the room, and he just goes and gets a bowl of soup at the same place. And so he knows, he gets this information from one of the bellhops at the place the guy's staying. And so he looks and he finds a sniper sight, but he's like, you know what, forget it. I know the alleyway this guy's gonna go through. I'm gonna do this firsthand. And so he literally positioned himself in a dark alley that he knows this drug dealer's gonna go through, because the drug dealer's been trying to stay, out of camera sight, try to stay low. So he knows the guy's route, and he just literally hides behind a dumpster, right, and waits for the drug dealer to come over, and he comes out from behind the dumpster, and he raises his pistol, and the drug dealer's like, hey, hold up, right, like, slow down, right, it's okay, like, you don't have to kill me. And so there's a little bit of and he's like, I know why you're here, it's okay, just calm down, I can give you some money. And at that point, Sean Hartfield just kills him, like, bing, 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 puts 3 in him, and then walks up and puts 3 more in him, right? Like, right there, just shuts the conversation down. He then searches the body, right? And he does find something unusual. He finds a Philip K. Dick novel called Ferris, a battered paperback novel called Ferris, right? And the player was like, oh, okay. And that's it? That's all that's on his body? I said, there's $150 and there's his wallet with his ID. Do you want that? And he's like, no. And I was like, are you going to take the novel, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll take the novel, right? So he takes the novel and he puts it into his pocket. Now, what's interesting is Philip Terry Dick never wrote a novel called Ferris, right? So this is a really unusual artifact, and it has some value, but I don't press my players on every point, right? So this is interesting to me, but it clearly wasn't interested to the player, right? So he didn't dig any more into it, but he still has the novel, so I might use that as a hook later, right? So then he calls Alabaster Dove, and Alabaster Dove had already paid him the $500K the moment he took the job, right? And the reality is, Alabaster Dove had enough respect from whoever she, set this up with, that she was able to pay him in advance. And actually, Alabaster Dove just paid him out of her largesse, right? And is going to collect from the buyer, right? So Alabaster Dove really treats him extremely well, and he has a great handler job. And it was very simple. It was very in and out. Session 1, I really liked the way the flow went. I was really, really delighted with the interview part, because I loved seeing the player discover their Dungeons & Dragons character during play, rather than this abstract, solitary scrawling before the game, or through some super lame, ooh, let's have a session 0, let's have a committee to hold a tabletop role-playing game, right? So it was just really fast. We were really in and out. And also, one of the nice things is, on 1 hour Dungeons & Dragons, I get together with a guy, and then we play 1 hour Dungeons & Dragons, and then I still have enough time. I'm at my FLGS, and I get up and I buy some Magic singles, right? And then we have enough time to go to Applebee's to get a nice dinner and talk, and that's a 4 hour Dungeons & Dragons where there's just more time, right? And the thing is, we did a full adventure. We did the same thing and frankly, I think a lot of 4 hour Dungeons & Dragons isn't even finishing a single adventure in a single 4 hour session, right? So I'm all in on 1 hour Dungeons & Dragons. I really love it, and I'm really having fun with this Laser Sights and Last Rites. Thank you for letting me share you my field report for session 1 of Laser Sights and Last Rites. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.